Good evening, friends. My name is Brahmachari Aditya, and I am speaking from the city of Pune, which is in Maharashtra, India, and from Ananda Sangha's city center. And this evening, we have a very interesting question to discuss. This came up in the previous session's, comment section. Many people were asking. This is a new series we have started about answering spiritual questions, and the question which came most often this week was, well, what is God and how can we feel Him? And when I was given that subject, I said, thank goodness that somebody added the second half, which is very important. And on some level, you will see by the end of this 10-minute or so talk, is actually the easier question to answer. How can we feel something? How can I know something? That actually, the questioning itself, as you can see, has perhaps more openness than the first half, which is very valid in itself too. What is God? Who is God? But let me start off by one of the scriptural sayings, Ishwar Ashiddha, God cannot be proved. And believe it or not, for centuries, people have taken that statement. I was just reading a book, actually a best-selling book last week based on Buddhism, where a comment was made that because God simply cannot be proved, why are we worried about his existence or not? And you wonder if it's a best-selling book, do we take that to be an answer? But every now and then the mind asks, no, I want to know more. So let's go into that discussion a little bit. Also, 21st of January was World Religion Day. So on one level, you might say you and I owe it to ourselves and to this greater, questioning that people are doing, that what is God? Does he exist? I think whether we like it or not, we all, sooner or later, will come to this question or perhaps have thought about it. I remember when I was in primary school, I was taking a walk with my father one evening. It was a beautiful new house we had moved into. It was the evening setting, and it was a beautiful garden where we were strolling back and forth from one end of the property to the other. And I don't know why, in the silence, from somewhere, this question came up and I asked him. I said, Dad, who is God? And he was quite perplexed first, and he said, oh, he's a good person. Good people become God. I said, oh, that seems like a good direction. I said, really? I said, give me an example. And he said, oh, son, think of Mahatma Gandhi. Who knows? He said, I don't know for sure, but maybe hundreds of years later, people might enshrine him and say he was God. And I liked the idea very much. But later, I think I didn't ask, that's why I didn't probe further, but I was left wondering, oh, but I was thinking in my mind, he must have to be much greater and nicer or something more than the form of Gandhiji, as sweet as it was. And so then as we, grow through life, we have more questions. And I came upon some different definitions or explanations for who God is. Some religions call him spirit. Some actually say he does not exist. Believe it or not, there is a religion called atheism. I wonder why they call themselves a religion, because a religion often addresses the presence and nature of God. But when we think of that reality, friends, it can be very perplexing. But somewhere inside like I said, we are propelled to think about it one way or another. Perhaps that is why there are so many ways to describe him. Some call him, he's a form, masculine, feminine. Some say he's Hanuman, the monkey god. Some say, no, he's Shiva. These are in India. Other ways, I'm sure people describe him in different ways. But long ago, Swami Vivekananda, many great saints of India and otherwise also have said, actually, God is not a form. He can take a form, but he's formless too. Or like Kriyananda ji, the founder of Ananda, he was once asked, why do Indians do idol worship? And he said, actually, if you really go deep into the history of idol worship, you will see actually it started with ideal worship. You and I may have ideals and we put them into a form because the form somewhere gives us strength. I know as a child, I would again and again draw Hanuman from different angles and each time find so much joy in sharing it with my friends, my parents, and looking at it because somewhere I think I was tuning into, I like to see his feats of strength, and seeing those paper drawings would give that strength to me, and I would perhaps somewhere module my life, you might say, according to that. But if we go deeper into a certain section of civilization, I'm talking about people here now who've lived, These are the saints. They have unanimously, over centuries across cultures and religions, they have said actually they have found the answer to that burning question: does God exist? What is He? How can we feel Him? How can we know Him? And here are some common answers they gave, and maybe you will agree with some of them or at least think deeper. First of all, Shankaracharya, a great well-known saint, he says God is consciousness, He is bliss, He is ever-new joy. And there are philosophies which describe this in great detail. They may behave as sects sometimes, but actually the teachings merge from one to the other. For example, in Sanatan Dharma, which is nowadays described as Hinduism, the religion, at least in India, we are most familiar with, it says that we must think about this question because life is passing, often in the direction of, inability. It needn't be like that, but physical inability, mental difficulties which come with old age, let's accept it, how youth is enjoyed and aspired for by most people. Old age is often, we try to push it at a distance, but this beautiful philosophy tells us, no, it will come. So on one level, it is actually quite unbiased and not a depressing field after all. It is simply telling us how things will sooner or later be at our doorstep. And you think about it, oh, separation from best friends, families, perhaps complete forgetfulness of all my skills in life because of dementia in old age. And you say, I don't like that picture so much of death and dementia and, such separation. But then the second philosophy which comes along with that, age-old philosophy, is that of Vedanta, which says actually life can end in supernal bliss and joy, unending joy for everybody. Almost makes us wake up and say, really, what is the proof behind that? And they quote saint after saint and lives and enormous stories, till you say, okay, if that is perhaps true, I would like to experiment and know how. And there, friends, when we ask the question, how, comes the philosophy, or you might say the science of yoga, which says this is how you do it. I want to share a story before we come to how we can feel God's presence. There was a man who had the same question that you and I are discussing years ago. Yogananda ji used to tell this story. And he said, well, more and more people are saying that is the goal of life. I would like to know which one God I must focus on, and then everything else will fall in place and I will come back to my duties, but this is paramount. So he set about from his village, seeking wise people, which God must I worship? As he was praying and meditating by a river, came a yogi and he said, son, worship any idol of God which gives you power and you feel which is, strong. So he said, that is good. I need to, instead of focusing on such a vast nature, I'll focus my attention. And he went about and he found one idol after another, each unique, beautiful, aspiring in their own way. And he picked them and he gathered them. His hands were full. Then his shoulders with bags of idols were full. Finally on his head carried he a heavy trunk full of idols, each unique, as I said, till he could walk no more. And almost as he was about to faint by the weight of those gods, shall I say, he kept them aside and began sitting on the box weeping. And again the same hermit was passing by. He said, my son, what is wrong? Why are you weeping? You set about on a joyful mission. He said, Father, I am more confused than before. Here are all these gods. And I was wondering, I don't have enough time to pray to each of them. Which one should I focus on? And he said, focus on that which gives you maximum strength and that which is strongest in your own opinion. That will be the right idol for you. And this boy was very happy. And you know what? He started breaking those idols one after another till he was left with only one idol. Let's say it was made of metal. And he said, this is my God. And he was quite pleased. And he took it home and he started worshipping it. He offered food and flowers, incense and candle to that. And one day, as he was praying to it, he heard some sound. And he saw that the food which was on that idol as an offering was being eaten by a mouse. And he said, my goodness, this mouse is more powerful than the God. So he captured the mouse and he started worshipping the mouse. You know where this story is going? The mouse started growing fatter and fatter by those offerings till he was a very, you know, the aspired meal for a cat. And the cat came about, and the mouse left the altar, and this man caught the cat, started feeding the cat. His own food he was offering to the god he loved the most, till his wife came with a broom one day, and she said, "Enough of this. My whole kitchen supplies are being eaten by this cat." And she whacked the cat with a broom. And this man looked at his wife. He said, "I never knew you had more power than the god I was worshipping. Will you not please sit on the altar?" And she sat there till he started worshipping her. And one day, as he was ordering food from her, he saw that in his plate was a piece of charcoal. And in outrage, he called out to her, "What is this piece of charcoal doing in my rice? Spoiling my very experience of this meal." And she said, "Forgive me, Lord," she cried from the kitchen. "It was by mistake. I will at once give you another plate." And he thought to himself, "My goodness, she's afraid of me. I must be stronger than her then." And he started worshipping himself. And Yogananda ji says that was the beginning of his discovery over a period of time that God is not really out there anywhere, except that He's first. He has to be first worshipped, experienced, enshrined within ourselves. So how do we come to know if such a reality exists? That reality, friends, on a simpler level in our day-to-day work, how do we even begin to believe that such a thing exists? Yogananda ji said you could think of God as cosmic intelligence. Actually, scientists now say that if the cosmic or forces in the universe were even off by a small fraction, I don't know what it is, but I think it's smaller than 0.1% also, the whole galaxies and planets would go in disarray, colliding with each other. So there is an intelligence which is somehow clockwork in its precision, with the seasons, with the day and night, and the way galaxies and sun and stars move. And Yogananda ji said it is reflected in you and me too. If we are thinking, when I was thinking about God, I had this question, that if this question is coming to me, somewhere there must be an answer. I don't know the answer. I can't even claim I know the answer even now. But I said there must be an answer, and maybe let's keep pursuing in that direction. You know, friends, in this century, a breakthrough discovery of science was that matter actually does not really exist. In quantum physics, they say that our body, you should study that if you have not delved into it, is actually 99% and more space. How we are still able to move the body if we are mostly space is something I will leave for you to discover through quantum mechanics, the laws of magnetism in atomic level. But if matter has been shown to be nothing but energy, Yogananda ji said this is how God operates. He said He is consciousness, awareness, and He says He projects a part of Him as a thought, which when given more energy becomes manifested as light and power, which given more energy becomes a form. So if you have come on this channel knowing beforehand that this is going to come on this talk, I should say, first you have a thought, something is going to be broadcasted. That thought is not enough. You have to give energy to your thought, and that thought then becomes manifestation and you are present over here. Similarly, they say that through yoga, there are two main approaches by which we can experience Him. One is the statement of Patanjali, the great exponent, the father of yoga, who said, "Yogas chitta vritti nirodh." When we can calm our feelings, our restlessness, our biases, likes and dislikes, we all get that fleeting experience many times. Oh, there is a power beyond this. And secondly, friends, is a very important word which Yogananda ji elaborated on, and this word is Vishwas, which actually, if you break it down, means without shwas, which is breath. When in deep meditation, and this has been the experience of every saint there ever was, when the breath calms down and finally stops, and your awareness in that moment actually expands, you say, I am not just this physical body. And faith, which is translation of Vishwas, your faith is deepened, and faith is the basis of true religion. So through meditation especially, which is a very central theme of yoga, we all can experience God, Yogananda ji said, as peace, calmness, love, joy, energy, inner light, sounds, and finally he said as wisdom of what is true and what is not. That is what we have begun exploring today, and I hope you will take this further. If you have questions on these spiritual topics or other related subjects, please write it to us in the comment section. We'll be very happy to take your questions and give more detailed explanations, and perhaps even include it as a future recording. Thank you for joining us.